Did DJR do a good enough job to keep the factory support though? He said, I don't think so. I agree.
Yeah, totally agree. They probably didn't. And when you said earlier, when Triple Eight give you a call and say, hey, we'll run your cars for you,
yeah,
you're mad to not look at that as an option.
Oh no! He's in defence! The boat's in defence! They're all in defence! Oh, unbelievable!
Let's do it.
Sound check.
Sound check.
Ooh, cheers.
Hey, cheers, mate.
You've got a little video for us, mate.
I do. Well, before we do that, though, it is episode 29 of the podcast. This season started off with a bang with some massive news. Ford is partnering with Triple Eight, and that's what this podcast is going to be about, discussing all things related to that and the topics that are going to raise their head, I guess, in 2026. We want to talk about breakdown. But, of course, as always, we want to shout out our partners on the screens behind us, East Coast Car Rentals, AHU 15. So if you're a loyal listener of the show or you're travelling anywhere in the future and require a hire car, use AHU 15 at East Coast Car Rentals for a 15% discount.
Lovely.
You can do the next one.
Lancaster Motor Group. If you don't want to rent one, buy one. Simple as that. And then if it's raining, put some Tricos on it.
Exactly. Trico wiper blades. If you are in the market for wiper blades, please think of our partners. They keep us alive. We also have Patreon going. If you want, we have a membership program there on Apex Hunters Patreon. No pressure there, but if you do want to support us, that would be great. And we're live streaming tonight's podcast, which we've done. We live streamed our last one as a private live stream, but we really enjoyed it, and we want to try and do some different stuff this year. And I think live streaming this one, given there's such a cool topic to talk about and so many things related to it,
it's huge.
We wanted to, we thought, why not? And the whole point of our podcast is to talk to you guys and girls at home and see what the general consensus is amongst all the fans at home and what they think of the news that's come out today with Ford and T8.
Love it.
Well, before we give our opinion on it, I actually thought we might as well just let J-Dub tell us or break the news of what's happened. So I'm just going to play their Instagram video and you guys can have a listen to what J-Dub had to say about the announcement.
Everyone, on behalf of my teammates, past and present, we've got some really exciting news to share with you today. Our main objective at Triple Eight is to entertain people, bring people joy, watching our race cars go around tracks at silly speeds. We want to inspire people to push a little harder, go a little further, push the boundaries to generate new experiences. From the start of the 2026 season, I'm very excited to announce that we'll be the official homologation team and performance partner of Ford Performance. Of course, a huge part of this partnership will be managing the Gen 3 Supercar program, but our plan is for it to extend much further than that. Our partnership extends from our desire to be performance partners across multiple levels of motorsport where Ford want to showcase their world-class products. Ford have a rich history in worldwide motorsport, and nothing highlights this more than their commitment to the Red Bull Formula One team, which also debuts in 2026. Aligning manufacturers with Red Bull's major motorsport commitment will only further strengthen the partnership. It's important to know our biggest attraction to committing to this change is the fact that so many Aussies already love this great brand, with over 100,000 new Fords sold in 2024. Our mission is to take the learnings that we've developed in motorsport the last 20 years to allow everyone the opportunity to experience it in some way, shape or form in their everyday travel. We have serious passion about everything we do at Triple Eight, which makes the timing exactly right to come back to this great brand. We're very, very proud of everything we've achieved in our 20-year history, which includes 15 years representing the Holden GM brand and their supporters. We can't thank you enough for accepting us back in 2010 and enjoying the journey with us. Right now, we're looking forward to bringing you proper motorsport action, fighting for another Supercar Championship with Will and Brock, and we can't wait to share further detail with you on our 2026 plans as soon as we can. We hope to see you trackside real soon.
There we go. Barbs, what are your takeaways from the announcement today? Let's get into it.
I think it came as a shock. I don't think, I wasn't expecting it. I don't know if you were, mate, but I think it came as a shock. But I think it's exciting, obviously for Triple Eight, because it probably doesn't just open up a new partner for supercars, but for motorsport in general. So I think for motorsport fans, whether it be supercars or just in general, I think it's going to open up some different stuff here in Australia and other things to follow and opportunities, I think, for drivers in Australia as well.
Yeah.
So I think from that point of view, Ford's a huge company. It's probably the biggest motor car company in the world. So I think it's good. Plus, I think we'll touch on it in the show, but I think will work out if there's a parity issue or not.
Well, that's one of the things I think that will raise its head next year will be the topic around were the teams running Ford doing the best job with what they had? Because, I mean, I was pretty vocal, like my opinion was pretty strong on last year's performance where T8 won by so much. I thought they could have won in a Ford anyway. So it'll be interesting if they come out next season and have a really strong showing in a Ford immediately. I personally think that they will, and I'm actually excited that there's going to be new someone pushing new development on the Ford going into next year, because typically when a new car is released, being the Toyota, they get a leg up. So always the first year of a new homologated car, often things are left to the last minute, intentionally I would say, so that supercars at the last minute don't have any option really but to approve some things that maybe shouldn't initially, and then they get addressed later. So hopefully we see two cars roll out that are of equal advantage, and you know, and we can see a car take it to Toyota, because I think without this, it was looking like, in my gut feel, being 26, Toyota would have had a slight advantage being a newly homologated car, and some things probably needing to be addressed at some point. Just typically in history, that's been something that has been an issue. And then, yeah, I think it's exciting for the sport. It's kind of like it's exciting, but then immediately you think about GM and where does that leave them? I think it's going to be interesting to see. I've heard that they are really still passionate about motorsport and they want to try and have a presence in supercars, and yeah, that means they're going to be searching for a new homologated team. Who that is the next topic, but it's bittersweet, I guess, because it's exciting that Ford look like they're really investing in what they're doing with AAA. It doesn't look like it's a small deal, and it goes beyond just a supercar program by the sounds of it.
Yeah, for me, I'm a Holden/GM boy through and through. I still drive a Holden product today. I've got a Holden Ute, drive it every day. So for me, seeing the best team in supercars not run the bow tie on the front is a little bit sad. But at the same time, the driver side of me, like, you just want to drive the best car you can and with the best team you can. So if I was a driver that was in a position like Will or Brock, it really wouldn't faze me, I don't think, because I'd just be like, well, if the team back it and they think it's going to be a winning combination, then cool, I want to be in the best car and the best product. So
yeah,
I think, you know, the fan side of me is a little bit sad because I love Chev and Holden.
Yep. But
then, you know, the driver side of me is like, cool, I reckon it's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I grew up in a Ford family. It's funny because I've been called biased on both sides of the fence because I've driven for Dick Johnson Racing and I've driven for Walkinshaw post their HRT, like their factory Holden days, but still both, you know, really prominent Ford versus Holden teams. At the end of the day, like, it is still a job, not to put aside the passion of driving for brands and what it means to us, but you kind of drive for whoever is prepared to pay your bills. And that's something to always remember as well, is like when teams make these changes, I'm sure there's a business decision that goes along with it. And that's really important, not only personally for, say, AAA, but also the longevity of the sport. So you do have to follow that, and hopefully fans understand it. But yeah, I've driven Chev for most of my career, or GM, sorry, and I am my dad was a diehard Ford man. Dick Johnson was his favourite driver, so that definitely runs strong through, you know, my blood as well. But at the end of the day, I think it's an exciting thing for the sport because it looks like Ford's stepping up more.
Yeah, and now that it's happened, I mean, hindsight's a beautiful thing, but it's probably shouldn't be that big of a surprise because, you know, there's still car companies that are supporting the projects. And Ford absolutely dominate in this part of the world over GM. GM sell bugger all cars compared to Ford. So that means they've got more money to spend in this area. So it probably shouldn't really be a surprise that Ford have got more to spend and can invest, you know, more money towards the sport because they sell a shitload more cars in Australia than what Chev do.
Yeah.
So, you know, as I say, it's easy with hindsight on, isn't it? But when you look at it and you go, it probably shouldn't be that much of a surprise because other than the Silverados and things like that, I know they're bringing in some new products soon to Australia, Chev are.
Yep.
But, you know, the last sort of, well, since Chev's been in Australia, Ford have definitely dominated the market as far as volume of sales. So it probably shouldn't be that, I guess, we shouldn't be that surprised by it.
Yeah, and the sport has changed a lot as well. I even see one of the comments while we're live streaming here from Matt Anton is that you know, fans typically follow drivers now, and I think that has changed a lot. And one thing I think we probably hung on to for too long, in my opinion, as a category, was trying to stay relevant or market relevant with the cars that we're running. Of course, it's important because we're still going to have Ford and GM fans and Toyota fans. But at the end of the day, I think that for the longevity of the sport, you need to build the profiles up within it. And I think that the new drivers we've got, super talented. I'd like to see more of their personalities. But I think you're right there, and Matt, that we're going to see fans, I think, stick with drivers they like.
Yeah.
And
it is true. It's changed so much, hasn't it?
Massively.
When I was a kid, I was Holden for sure. To the point where when Lowndes went to Ford, I was like a little bit off him. But now 100% I just follow the athlete.
Yeah.
And that goes for all sports, whether it be footy, rugby. I mean, you still have your team, but, if you like someone and they go somewhere else, you'll still sort of wish them well and follow what they're doing. So I think that's definitely changed.
What about in terms of homologation teams for GM? Because, I mean, we would all love to see them stay in the championship. And like I said, I have heard they are interested. They want to. So the next question is, who is a legitimate GM team you think that could be the next homologation team?
We just had... I'm just trying to find it. I've lost the name, sorry, who put it in the chat, but it's a good shout, and I thought about it today. I would actually like to see someone like a BJR take it on. They run a few cars. They're based in out of Albury. I think they've got the means. They've actually got a decent machine shop, and they could obviously tool up as well. I think someone like that, with the expertise they've got there, I'd like to see someone like that take it on.
The only thing I would say is at the moment BJR are customer teams, are a customer team of Triple Eight. And that's another thing. I haven't actually seen that come up today, and I haven't asked Jamie or anything like that. I had a conversation with Jamie this morning, but of course I didn't ask any podcast questions. So it's really a conversation tonight we're having. But one of the big things for the T8 model, I imagine, is their customer program, because I know there's a lot of teams that are customers of Triple Eight, not just for purchasing the components that are controlled by Supercars that Triple Eight have the rights to, but also things like data that drivers get access to and other teams get access to set up through the Triple Eight software. So that's something that it'll be interesting to see which teams now follow suit to Ford. And at the moment, with BJR being a customer team, is that something they would consider? Because if you want to continue your customer program, I imagine now they're going to have to switch to a Ford to stay in that program. So would they want to go and leave a customer program to be? I mean, it's a big step to go from being a customer team to then homologation.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, as we know, the chassis are the same. So.
Yeah, but you're not going to be a customer as a homologation.
Yeah, as far as setup and all the other stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we haven't heard about that yet.
It'll
cause a ripple effect, right, through the sport. Because, as you said, there's homologation teams and then there's customers of those homologation teams, which is why someone like a BJR or,
I would always say someone who's quite independent and they look sort of independently minded would be a Groves. Someone that's going to be at a level, I think, with people like Couchy, Shippy, they've got good internal people that I think will almost have a chip on their shoulder to say, well, we could do that. Like we could take that on.
Yeah, and now that I think about it too, it'll need to be someone that's got a lot of money to tool up.
100%.
So
I'd heard that, it's something like, including the engine development as well, but it was like $800,000 nearly that DJR's invested into this program.
For a small return as well. So you're going to have to be prepared to, we'll just throw inflated ballpark numbers out there, but whoever takes on is going to have to be prepared to probably wash a mill down the drain.
Well, they're going to have to, I imagine, purchase IP for the GM as well, if they were to take it on, as well as then continue the development. Because the one thing that GM's got used to is having success. And wherever they go, they're not going to settle for... I can't imagine they're even going to do a deal where they don't believe they could genuinely be contending, because otherwise you're just facing a slow and painful death. So I think GM's too good, had too much success. They're going to want to go somewhere, if they do, that is going to be successful.
I would imagine too, Chev, a huge in motorsport globally, they'll do their due diligence too, just like Triple Eight did when they were going through their process and picked Ford. So I'm sure would have already been having meetings with other teams and doing their own process.
Jared T just has thrown in on our live stream as well. It grows, we're going to Toyota. So I may have missed that actually. I may be behind on that one. Maybe in the chat as we're going here, people might be able to let us know. But we do want to hear from you guys as well while we are live. For those that are listening to the recording of this podcast, reiterating that, we're streaming this. So, jump on our Apex Hunters YouTube in the future if you would like to see streams like this and participate in a podcast and help us continue the conversation, because tonight was it was a shock to me when I found out, when I was told, and I was excited by it. And straight away, you and I were like, "Fuck, let's chat and like get this thing going and just chat with the public and see what everyone else is thinking of this while it's happening."
So Sean P's just asked, does this mean all Ford motors to KRE? And you would imagine that Kenny Mack, KRE, will keep their relationship with Triple Eight as the engine builder and supplier. So, yeah, I would strongly think that's going to be the case. So
it actually does. So, yes, KRE is taking over the engine homologation as well.
Great.
Which is, I mean, it is disastrous though for DJR, because they'd only just recently set up their engine program. So there's a lot of staff there, I imagine, that they've put on to increase the workload there. So what happens with them, I'm not entirely sure. And I can't imagine either that any of the development they've done, Kenny Mack's going to need to really purchase from them, because
he won't want it, mate.
They're going to want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that, this wouldn't have been an overnight decision. This would have been something that Jamie at T8 and the rest of the team had been looking at for a long time, and they've done their own research. And I think they would love the opportunity.
You're right, mate.
I've had a half a cider, and I got the burps. They would have definitely done their homework, and they would see the package and go probably excited to jump in and take it their own direction. So it's definitely a curveball for DJR, which again is another one of the talking points. It's like, where does DJR go from here? Are they going to be more competitive, do you think, in the future as a competitor to T8 with their homologator parts?
Yeah, I think it may help potentially a little bit. I mean, they obviously tooled up for this season, and we probably won't get to see from a homologation point of view if that would have changed anything, because that's now changing for 2026. But I think it may potentially help them, because now they can just purely focus on being a race team rather than also a homologation partner. And, in our interview with Ryan Story, if you haven't watched or listened to it, go and check that out. He mentioned obviously that was a huge amount of work for them to take that on and also try and be a race-winning team. So I think with the staff that DJR have now, it may just help them, not have to worry about all the other stuff and just go racing and enjoy it. But, I mean, how would DJR feel? I mean, I assume you would hope they got some notice maybe or knew about it, who knows, but you'd be a little bit disappointed. I mean, especially because Dick's over in America getting this award from Ford, and in the same time they're over there, they're then announcing, hey, this is the other team that we're trusting to lead us to the front, sort of thing. So
yeah, I think the timing was in a way for DJR, for Dick especially, it's disappointing, because he's getting that award, which was very prestigious, and I think that it would have been overshadowed or maybe made a little bit bittersweet for him to be losing. I know the engine program is something he was really passionate about. But like you said, on our podcast with Ryan, he did express that, whether it was a distraction or it took their eye off the ball. I mean, Ryan said himself he wasn't able to really focus on the performance of the race team, because he's helping out with the development of the car and everything. So, maybe it will help them. One thing I would say is I've seen really competitive engineers with almost a bee in their bonnet that T8 gets credit when you have success. Like, I've been in a customer team a number of times, and engineers and drivers almost find it frustrating when you get a win or a podium and everyone immediately kind of goes back to saying, well, it's a T8 customer car, so they would expect that, rather than going, like the guys at Team 18 say when they got the win at Darwin. It was rare that they'd be like, oh, Team 18 did a fantastic job with their engineers. It was often like the engineers never felt like they got full credit. So that'll be something next year, I think, that is interesting with Tom Moore and George going to DJR. If they automatically have success in 26, when it does happen, if they have more success then, everyone's going to attribute their success to the development of the Ford from Triple Eight.
Well, that's why I
think that overshadows their ability almost.
That's why I secretly hope this year, before they get their hands on them, that DJR can actually do what I think they're capable of doing this year and win a heap of races and prove that, okay, they've got their stuff sorted, and the crew that they've invested in and what they've invested in behind the scenes has actually been, has actually yielded success, rather than, as you say, if it's a bit of a average year this year and then all of a sudden 2026 they come out swinging, then people are going to go, oh, it's because Triple Eight built the cars.
Exactly.
Or did the homologation process.
So I think this is going to be an important year for all of those guys at DJR to capitalise on the new staff, a new driver, and try and get to the front to prove that they can do it. And then going into 26, if the Ford is a strong package, then they would already have their own runs on the board and have credit going in that, it's attributed to them as well, not just T8 developing a fast Ford.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just what does it mean? Obviously, Triple Eight, it means it's fairly commercially driven, I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm.
What's it mean? What do you reckon it means? Because now on the flip side of that, the GM teams, there's a big player out of it. Does that give some of the smaller teams some more funding to be more competitive, or
Does what? Sorry, by GM pulling out, or
well, Triple Eight have left GM, which would have been soaking up some of their funding, I'd imagine, because they were a homologation team. Does that now give the smaller teams in GM, like a BJR,
well,
Matt Stone Racing,
it
does
depends
that
if
give
GM
them?
stays involved, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know that GM's just going to disperse because there's still 2025. There's still this season with GM involved with running those cars. So it depends if it's a clean cut at the end of 25 or if GM's still going to be involved. And I genuinely don't know. I'm not sure. Like I said, I know that there is interest. So there's some hope there for fans of GM that they would stay around. But I think at the end of the day, it would always come down to performance and where they probably see, and also how much can they afford to chip in. I don't know where their budget's at the moment, because like you said, it has.
And if they've got a car, because we know the Camaro is at the end of its life cycle.
Well,
like even NASCAR's looking at bodying them to Cadillacs.
That's the big thing is the relevance has disappeared a little bit in the Australian market for GM. So that's tough. But I don't know. We've got a massive year ahead of us, and I would love to. I mean, I'm driving with Will Brown at Bathurst, and I personally would love to go out on a high with them. And I know Will said earlier in a post today that he wants to try and win the last Bathurst and the last championship for a GM on the grid, or in at least with Triple Eight. So yeah, we've still got a big year ahead of good racing, and then exciting times, I think, in 25. And actually, one point is that T8 will be building 3 new Mustangs for 2026. So, and the plan is for KRE to take over the Ford engine program. So they're starting now. Like, this is the thing, you're not wasting any time.
I'm sure
They're going to be hard at work, and if I was running the Toyota, you'd hope you've already been working to have that little bit of a head start, because there's no way that T8's going to leave any stone unturned when it gets to 2026.
So you reckon a Mustang can win Bathurst?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think Mustang could have won the championship, but it will be interesting too. What fans, the ones that called, Ford fans that were calling Triple Eight lying cheats, because they always win. It'll be interesting if they start winning in a Ford, if they're still going to have the same opinion.
We've got a couple of people coming through on the chat, and they've said it, and it would be cool. I shared the other day, NASCAR did a render of if the Chevs were Cadillac front and rear.
Yep.
And I reckon they look the tits. And a couple of people just said in the chat here that, Supercars needs the GMSV Cadillac, and I agree. I mean, they're starting to bring some of their other models in. I think the Yukon's coming in now, and Lancaster actually, they'll sell those as well. But I think it would be cool. I mean, you need to keep Chev in there. So if the Camaro is at the end of its life cycle, we need to bring in whatever is the replacement. And our fans in the comments have said it's actually never been discussed what is going to be the replacement for the Camaro. Hopefully GM have something bubbling away, and in the coming weeks or months they can maybe announce something like that. But that would be, we need a GM product on the grid, in my opinion, for Supercars.
Yeah,
just as a fan. Not from a business point of view, it doesn't need to happen, but as a fan that grew up as a Holden boy.
I personally still think, though, as well, that we need to start to try and entice other manufacturers to join the championship. I think that's really important for the future, because, yes, it's great as a loyalist to have GM on the grid, and, of course, we want that because the more the better, but I think that it'd be great to bring in, like what Toyota's done, will hopefully open some doors for other manufacturers and see that you can be competitive. I know that when we went to Car of the Future, there was challenges there for the Nissan and Mercedes, and I think some people shied off after that. They were kind of like, it wasn't possible, but it would be good to see, I think, more manufacturers join as opposed to just trying to keep one.
Yeah. The problem is when you go down the manufacturer route and trying to get multiple manufacturers, and we've seen it in our comments and today all over everyone's socials, and then people start pushing the GD3 agenda. Which would make sense as a manufacturer because they already build the cars, they've already got the stuff, and they go, well, this is heaps cheaper. And I don't want to see that happen.
It's cheaper up front for the manufacturer, but to run them, the cost is astronomical compared to, someone even said...
For the manufacturer, they're like, well, we'll just do this then. And for me, that would be shit.
Tell me why. Because we had this question online about why not run the GT program and get rid of Gen 3. Why do you think, personally, that...
Well, we've seen it with the different iterations of supercars. They're a high aero car. Mm-hmm. The racing is boring.
Yeah.
So they've got too much downforce. You can't drive close enough. And, there's an expense to them as well. Supercars has the best racing product we've talked about before on the planet. As far as close quarters, banging doors, hard racing, you will not find a better race than a cracking supercar race in any other category.
Yeah, I agree.
So to me, that's why GT3 doesn't work. And we'll see it probably on the weekend in the 12-hour. You might see a couple of aggressive passes where they just load up the ABS and dive bomb in. But other than that, it's generally nose to tail. And if someone's faster, they'll just slowly make their way past. But the racing is not as good in my opinion. So that's why I would hate to see it go down GT3 route. We saw it when we put a heap of aero on the supercars. The racing wasn't as good. So now they've pulled it off. Racing's awesome again.
Yeah.
So
I think the more you add aerodynamics...
You see it with F1. F1, heaps of aero, shit racing.
Yeah. And I'm an F1 fan.
Cars are cool. Cars are cool. Drivers are amazing. Yep, awesome. They're fast, but it's shit racing.
Yeah.
So...
Matt Anton again has thrown in another point here. They got Toyota. Most said it wasn't possible. What about BMW, Hyundai, Kia, Jag, Audi?
The problem is, and again, the companies that are selling heaps of cars in this part of the world will invest. So that's why I've seen Toyota. So when you drive down the street, you see a shitload of Ford Rangers or Ford products, you see a heap of Toyota products. So again, they need to be selling a heap of stuff and making a lot of money in this side of the world to probably reinvest into that. And I think, are Beamer selling enough? Probably not. They've got the GT programs and everything else they do in WEC and hypercars and all that. Same with, Jaguar and the likes. Really, we're sort of dominated by 2 or 3 brands here in Australia, and they're the ones that are probably going to tip in the money or sell enough to warrant tipping in that sort of program, is my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I still think the win on Sunday, sell on Monday is a real thing.
Yep. I think you do still get that cut through. The only thing is the cars. I don't think the cars need to look as relevant as they used to because technology's just moved on. You're never going to get a front bar that looks like a road car anymore because they're just not. If we did, you'd have cars that are really slow on the racetrack and look like shit on the racetrack. People would complain. So they're never going to look, they've got to be a prototype of a road car, but you still want people to love that there's a Ford badge on the front or a Toyota that they're loyal to.
And that's the only way I could see it happening where you'd have a heap of different manufacturers or enough is where if it went down sort of that NASCAR route as an example, but slightly different where controlled chassis, controlled bodies, different front rear clip as in bodywork, but a controlled motor and So as an example, if there was a supercar motor, it wasn't a Ford, it wasn't a Chev product, it was their own developed thing, it was a controlled motor. It'd be like Trans Am. Everyone runs an LS and Trans Am. And you just pick your body. If they went down that route, and as you said, you can still have your Toyota badge, your Ford badge, your Chev badge, BM, whatever you want, I could see it maybe working.
Yeah.
But if they still want to keep manufacturers building their own motors and things like that, I don't think there's enough that would come into the sport. Because the money they'd have to invest, like we saw what Betty had to invest to build a Merc motor. It was crazy. So
the only thing is the powertrain is almost, that's the lifeblood. I think that's what people connect with.
And that's what I'm saying. It might not work here because
if it's still powered by, and I get what you mean with the cost, but I think it's important to still be powered by. And then the body can be anything.
But that's what,
Because that's what you're buying at the end of the day when you win on,
In Australia, we're so passionate about, or we were especially, so passionate about the fans. They say, has to be a Ford, mate. You still see it now. People come up to a Trans Am event and they're like, that's a Mustang, but it's got a Chev motor. That's shit.
Yeah,
shouldn't be in it. Blasphemy. It shouldn't happen. So it is in our culture in Australia and New Zealand that we want to see the engine of the badge in the front powering the car.
Yeah.
So that's why it may not work here. But I think for it to work, if they want manufacturers, it's probably the only way I could see manufacturers wanting to buy in. Because then they're not saying, our motor's down on power, whatever. They're all the same.
Yep.
They should have the same chance of winning. They just got to pay the right drivers and the right team to set them up.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. The other thing that I think as all fans of supercars here in Australia should be excited about is the opportunities that it opens globally to see, hopefully, Will and Brock do stuff. I think that having Ford with Red Bull globally, I mean, their upcoming partnership with F1 is going to be big, and I think that that's really exciting to get to see two guys, because when Vodafone was a sponsor of McLaren, we saw a Formula One driver swap. I mean, I'm very jealous.
How cool was that when Lowndes drove the Formula One car?
Yeah, and Jamie got to drive at the Melbourne Grand Prix. So I really hope that we get to see some cross-collaboration between the F1 guys and our Aussie supercar drivers with Will and Brock, because we talk about trying to grow the sport, be a bit more relevant, maybe increase our digital presence. It's stuff like that will put us on a global stage. And even with Ford's presence globally in motorsport, there might be opportunities for the drivers to go and do other things, to drive other cars and put themselves, like what Shane did in NASCAR. And I mean, Will already did it at Sonoma, proved how good he is. But I think that we could, get some real opportunity for Will and Brock to show just how good supercar drivers are. Someone said nice shorts. Yeah, appreciate that. Wins racing. Thank you, mate. Pins are out. It's 30 degrees here in Melbourne.
I agree. I think if you were assigned Triple Eight driver for 2026 and beyond, you'd be super excited because absolutely there's going to be opportunities. And I think even not just in supercars, but I'm sure Triple Eight will expand the Ford presence in Australia and other categories as well, or globally, do things in other parts and other categories. So I think it's, for motorsport, it's super exciting. If you're a Triple Eight driver, you'd be, like a dog with two dicks probably.
100%. And I mean, Jamie did say in an interview I saw that he is looking at Mustang Challenge, GT3 and Fink were the three he mentioned. So I think that's cool too, to see if Triple Eight actually get involved in those and try and increase the competitiveness of those championships. And the Mustang Challenge is currently in the US, but I don't know if he means involving that, but that was just something I took from an interview that he did. So at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of Ford fans out there that have been desperate to see Ford's success again after DJR Team Penske left, or Penske left, and it became DJR again. So it'd be good for Ford fans, I think.
How's the timing though? Sometimes things just work for companies. So Ford won the Daytona 24 last week.
Yeah.
And then now this week they're doing their big Ford launch for Ford Motorsport, Ford Performance 2025. The timing is awesome. They've got their winner from Daytona sitting there. Sometimes it just works. So they're having a good run at the moment.
Exactly, yeah. And they're strategic, but what I loved most about watching their live stream today is just how much they enforce that they're about going winning. And it sounded like in another interview, it was like mid-year, I think Jamie said they started looking at this, and then they had a meeting with them maybe I think
Bathurst.
Bathurst. Yeah, Bathurst.
Mark Rushbrook said they were talking at Bathurst.
Yeah. So and of course, I think he said like when Triple Eight come calling, of course you take that meeting because they're the best team in supercars and they want to get back to winning. And they got used to that with DJR. So it's nothing but exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, a lot of fans have asked in here, Scotty, but you're currently only signed up for this year, so you don't know what lays for you.
No. So I haven't renewed. We've just only really recently announced that I'm in a 2-year contract and very excited about this year with Triple Eight. And then hopefully, I would love to be a part of the future with Triple Eight. It's the best team in pit lane. It is. I genuinely really like the people too. I've known a lot of them since I was 22.
Yeah, when you came back to Australia, that was your home.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like I'm at home, and also like I've been very fortunate to be exposed to really good people, and with Roger Penske, Dick Johnson, Roland Dane, a lot of people. So when you get the opportunity to be involved in a team like this, you never want that to stop, and to be surrounded now with Jamie Whincup, our other owners, Quinny is obviously everyone knows who Tony Quinn is, an absolute guru. Steve Blackmore, new partners. Earl Evans, Shawn partners. They're new partners to it, but I'm getting exposed now to great people that will only put me in a better position when I'm older. You're always learning. So yeah, God, I hope I can be part of their future. And I mean, it all comes down to doing a good job. I've got to perform. Got to perform. That's part of our job is performance. And if you don't perform, you're out, mate.
I feel like that's even probably going to be. They've always been pretty cutthroat with that. Triple Eight just want the best people in their cars, right? But I think now with the pressure from Ford, that's going to be even. Not to put the pressure on you, mate, but I reckon that'll make people lift. People rise to that occasion. When you've got a global company going, these are our guys, these are the best in the biz. I reckon you lift to that, and
you do. I mean, there's no more pressure than when I did my Sandown was a weight off my shoulders. To go in. Even the first test day, to sit inside a Red Bull car and drive out of the pit lane, there's nerves that go along with that because there's a expectation, and no one even needs to tell you there's an expectation. We all know it as competitors that that's the best car, and we've always said every driver in the lane, our excuse book's pretty big. I'm still yet to make a mistake, but it's prepared. I've got a big one.
See, someone just said, watch out for the cutting, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, it is like you've got excuses through your career and you always like to wish if you're in the best car you could perform, and then you get in it and you go, okay, fuck, it stops now. This is where the bullshit stops and you have to go out and deliver, and that doesn't change. So I think when you go to Ford, there's no way that pressure can increase because you put the most on yourself anyway when you get in a Red Bull car.
Yeah. A couple of people saying, will we see Triple Eight run Mustangs in GT3? I would imagine 100%. they'll do a full program for GT Australia. As long as they've got customers, they're going to drive them and whatever. But I'd be very surprised if they don't run a couple of them to help with the whole presence this side of the world.
It would be good if they did. And even just the 12-hour, we did a podcast just only yesterday or the day before about that, and we both love that event. I'd like to see that grow next year, and it was a shame this year that Triple Eight weren't on the grid with their cars, particularly with the grid size this year being so small. So, yeah, hopefully next year we do see them do that. And, of course, like if I'm a part of the program next year, I will be begging and pleading with anyone that will listen if I can have a steer in whatever they've got going with the new partnership.
I'll be available too, guys, just in case. It has been a full-on day, though. A couple of people were saying, and I did notice before, MSR put up a funny picture of, it's like a meme of guys fighting, Mick Johns and the guys on his phone. You know, did something happen today? There's been some good stuff, and yeah, it is obviously big for the sport, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, there are some funny, if you haven't checked socials yet because you've been working today, check them out because some of the other teams are putting some pretty funny stuff up there that's definitely worth the ganza.
One of the other, I guess, for me, what it means for Triple Eight, the one thing I think they've worked really hard at is diversifying the business. So even sponsors, I'm sure, like they're able to maintain and keep sponsors in a tough commercial world because they have diversified so much. But I think for Triple Eight, this offers massive opportunity globally, and then also, like I said, the collaboration with other things with F1 and even Dakar. I mean, Dakar's a massive race as well, and Ford is. I think they just won actually with Matthias Ekstrom.
You're asking a hard question, but I'll say yes, he's pretty good.
So I think that's really going to be exciting for them. And then Parity, of course, has to be a topic of conversation. We touched on it briefly. Do we think that DJR is going to go better next year? It'll be interesting to see how much Triple Eight just pick up from scratch and start again, and how much they take from DJR or how much they're allowed to. But I think that we're going to see a much more competitive Ford next year, just because I think they've always done a good job as a homologating team. You can call it biased or whatever, but I think that whatever car they've had, because really it's two manufacturers fighting against each other, and typically when T8 have been running the car, they've done the best job with it.
Yeah, it'll probably I'm sure the other Ford teams were working as hard as they can, but sometimes it'll make them lift as well.
Yeah,
knowing that they can't be the top Ford team anymore easily, as an example, they'll have to really dig in, so it might make them lift, and yeah, pressure's on for sure.
Yeah. North Aleutian Consolidated. Hello from Alaska. Wow.
That's cool.
Appreciate that. Thank you for everyone that's joined us here for the live podcast. We're certainly, keep firing in questions, thoughts as well. We're keeping an eye on the chat here. If you'd like, subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube, keep us going. But exciting news. And I think that the biggest thing was Bathurst for a Ford next year in 2026 is going to be really interesting, because people have been saying Ford can't win.
Controversial statement, because you drive for a Chev this year, but I almost feel for the Ford guys it'd be nice if they got a win this year at Bathurst, just because if they don't, I mean, there's a fair chance that one might win in 2026. So
I hope they don't win.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't. I hope for your sake they don't, but I'll be Switzerland and sit on the fence a little bit there.
Smokehound has thrown in there that means there will be no excuses for the Ford teams in 2026, no more parity problems. Right. That is true, but also, like Barb said, that piles the pressure on Triple Eight, because already you say that's the expectation now.
Someone said, did Elliot just say have a Gans? Yeah, it means have a look, have a squiz. So it's just my slang coming out, sorry.
Elliot likes to throw one-liners in there.
Before we go to the memo, should we throw to the couple of questions before we dive into the fair? Because we've got some fan feelings
here. If you want to ask us anything specifically, someone said, how much did you know before today, Scotty? I get that question a lot. We've had it come through a load of times in comments, but it's not something that I'm privy to as conversations go on. I just get told slightly prior to it being announced. It's something that as drivers, like, we 100% trust everyone at Triple Eight that they're going to do the best thing relating to performance. So there's no way they're not going to be consulting their co-driver to get the deal across the line. But it's just something that, it's really nice when teams do the call around prior to these things being announced, just to make sure that all partners and everyone involved is aware before you read about it is always very nice. It's like a nice little transparency from your boss. But it's not something drivers ever get to something like this is not something drivers are really involved in or have anything to do with, but it's very nice to get the phone call this morning from Jamie and Tom, who are both in Charlotte at the moment, and they called me from their hotel room, gave me the news. Very excited. I was, just happy for them. They work hard. I see the effort that T8 put in. Very good.
Yeah. Willow TV's just said with T8 going...
you're going past the microphone there, mate.
Sorry. Willow has said with T8 going to Ford and Ford going to hypercar, could we see some supercar drivers at Le Mans in 2027? I mean, they're the sort of opportunities that it does open up, though. I mean,
100%.
And that's why when I was saying before, you'd be super excited if you were a contracted T8 driver, because I think the sky's the limit. With if you do a good job, I'm sure there'll be opportunities. So, yep, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw a couple of supercar guys go and co-drive at Le Mans.
Definitely. Even, for me, if I was a part of the program, even doing testing and development for a manufacturer like Ford, because the cool thing is it sounds like, even seeing the announcement today, it just looks like they're really, to put supercars on the same platform as Christian Horner talking about the partnership with Ford and Red Bull in Formula One. It puts us on a pedestal, and it shows that they are genuinely, investing in supercars again. And I think that's exciting. So maybe opportunities will open up even as a Coe doing test and development or something in anything they're doing. Like, I'd put my hand up for that. And then who knows, you do a good job in that, you get opportunities. But even Daytona, I'd like to see more Aussies try and get into that race. It's tough because there's a lot of different drivers that are doing it. So it's not the easiest one to get your bum in a seat.
Yeah, no, I agree. Speedcat has brought up a good point, and it's valid too. What about Toyota WEC for Walkinshaw drivers? I think that was part of the excitement for when Toyota got announced too, because for those that are going to drive a Toyota, again, it opens those global opportunities. So, I think anyone that's linked to a global manufacturer would have to be excited, because whether it be Toyota, Ford, Chev, I mean, we saw some of the Chev drivers here go and do NASCAR events last year. Cam Waters went and did a NASCAR event with the Ford team last year. So I think being linked to any of those global manufacturers, which they're all global manufacturers that are involved in the sport now anyway, it does open up opportunities for sure.
The thing is, if anyone does, the opportunities that come up through NASCAR, it still is about $250,000 US for a weekend.
Yeah.
So, there'll be doors that open up, but at the end of the day, for something like NASCAR, the budgets are massive. Like, a couple hundred US is not cheap change for...
No, well, especially
with the conversion.
We're like 61 cents to the dollar at the moment. So yeah, it's pretty exy.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you got there? Any other questions you like there, Scotty?
Someone said about pods around NASCAR. This one's for us specifically. Yes, we will actually, and I might watch the race on Monday, which is at 11 a.m.
Oh, I'll be watching that for sure. The Clash.
Yes.
Yeah, at Brown and Grey. Yep.
So I might live stream that.
Is that Monday?
11 a.m. Monday.
Fuck, I'll be at work. I'll have to go hide in my office and watch it.
Yes. Someone said, will Team 18 or BJR go to Toyota now with this announcement? I think Team 18 was always one that there's a very big difference between the Toyota forklifts and Toyota cars, I guess. But I know that Charlie was always, it was different businesses, but Charlie was always very passionate about Toyota and trying to get in there. I always remember that. So I had assumed that they're going to go to Toyota. I don't think he announced yes or no either way, but I would say that they're someone that would. BJR is an interesting one. There's a few teams like that. I really wonder where they're all going to go now. And if 888, I think a lot will go to Ford, because the customer program 888 have ran for so long has been such a successful program.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something today that Erebus won't change, because I saw Baz put something on LinkedIn about being loyal and all that sort of stuff. So they're obviously, that was a fair signal that they're going to obviously stay with Chev, and they'll probably vie, I guess, to be the homologation part. I'm sure they'd be having conversations too. So they're obviously going to hang around with Chev, you'd imagine. BJR, I think, would be open. But as you said, I could also see BJR going to Toyota too if the opportunity arose as well. Because why wouldn't they? They'd be mad not to.
Yep.
And they've been across multiple manufacturers in the past, even back to Super Tourist stuff with Brad running the Audi stuff.
Yeah.
And they've done Ford and Supercars, they've done Holden, they've done Chev. So, yeah, I think there's a few teams, it just depends how much the manufacturers are willing to back those teams and what the support level is. That's what it comes. It's a business for both sides. of the fence. So
100%. And even with Erebus, if they were to stay loyal and they did become a homologation team, I'd imagine they'd have to pick up the engine program unless it can stay at KRE and they can do both. I don't know.
yeah, well, that's a great question. Does Kenny Mack run both? I mean,
I don't know.
in a way that, not that there is a parity issue, we don't believe, but in a way that kind of makes it a bit even Stevens, doesn't it, between those two manufacturers anyway? If it's coming out of the one engine shop and they've got full transparency of what's going on,
Yeah.
you would think it would get pretty close, which is almost to my point before about, having the one motor. Maybe they just have the one engine shop that does the 3 or 4 different manufactured motors to try and keep it all. I mean,
Possibly.
do you need another beer?
I do need another drink, please, mate. And what we will do is we're going to throw to our fan memos now. We threw it out on socials that we would get some people to send in their voice memos and thoughts on it. So we will play a few of those for you as well.
Hey boys, big fan of the show. Disappointing news this morning for a Holden fanboy such as myself. But I'm more curious to know how this is going to affect DJR. They just spent all that money bringing Brody and some key Erebus staff into the team, only to lose the homologation status, which from the outside appears to be a big thing for teams to have in terms of performance on track. But just curious to see your thoughts on what's going to happen to them and who might be the new homologation team for GM.
You go first, mate. We've sort of touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, touched on it a little bit, but firstly, I don't know if being a homologation partner does give you it may do, but I don't know if it does. If it stretches you too far, as we mentioned earlier in the show, then maybe not. If you've got the people and the resources, then yes, maybe. I don't know who's going to be the GM new homologation. I mean, I don't think anyone does it, obviously, unless those that are having conversation with it. Look, it wouldn't surprise me if it was someone like an Erebus. It wouldn't surprise me if it was someone like a Groves.
Yeah.
It needs to be someone that's got the financial backing to be able to tool up enough to do a good job of it.
Yeah. I mean, the general consensus online is, and even looking at the chat while we're live streaming here as well, is that, since becoming the homologation team, it didn't seem to help DJR. It seemed to almost, and Ryan's story did kind of say that it probably stretched them a bit, took their eye off the ball, and I think that that's one thing. So maybe this will allow them to just focus internally again and only on performance and then not worry about having to be the homologation team. So,
and Luke Rosella just live in the comments just said Erebus won it without being a homologation partner. That's true. They won the championship in a Chev without, having to worry about being a homologation
100%
partner.
it's possible,
So,
yeah. Yep. Next one.
Hey team, Darren from New Zealand here. I don't think it really matters too much, with the Red Bull Racing team going to Ford. Yeah, we've been cool to have more Ford teams when it was the Chev Ford era, but it is what it is. I think it's more of a driver's support base these days as opposed to brands. Well, that's what I think anyway. I grew up a Holden boy, but Lowndes switching to Ford when I was a young fella kind of made me realise brands don't really matter, to be fair. Love the podcast, boys, and keep it up, Cheers.
I think that's the biggest thing. Someone actually mentioned that earlier in our pod that, maybe drivers are really what people are starting to follow now.
Yeah, I think you buy the car that you like the brand of, but you'll follow the athlete that you like or the driver that you like.
Yeah.
I think.
Someone in the comments as well has said, BG_36 said, why did they take it off Johnson? I don't think they took it off them as such. I think they just made a business decision to go somewhere else. And 888 is such a powerhouse. I think if you get the opportunity to go to them as the
kind of taking it off
team,
them, is it though?
Well, it's not taking it off them. It's not something you own. It's just it's like a sponsorship. You lose one,
can
and
they
they
keep
move.
it though?
What, the homologation?
Because you're only allowed one homologation partner, right?
Well, I guess if you lose factory support,
so they've lost all support.
Well, isn't that?
DJR, I would assume that'd still be a Ford supported team.
Yeah, but you're not going to be like getting the budget for homologation, would you? Isn't it different?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm assuming. So for them to then pick 888 and change and say you're going to be the homologation partner, essentially they have taken it off DJR. Is how you look at it.
Yeah. I mean, would you? Someone said why though. I guess it's kind of a no-brainer for me.
Performance. I would imagine it would be based off performance.
Yeah.
Ford, as you said, came out. They were real critical on Supercars about the parity because they want to win. And then in the interview today with Jamie, that was their whole reason. They said in every category we race around the world, we need to win.
Yeah, and I mean, Alex in here as well has said, did DJR do a good enough job to keep the factory support though? He said, I don't think so. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that in a world where numbers count, and it's all about the ones, if you're not getting them, then you make a change. And
Yeah, no, that's totally agree. They probably didn't. And when you said earlier, when Triple Eight give you a call and say, hey, we'll run your cars for you, you're mad to not look at that as an option.
Yeah. And yes, I think all cars do have manufacturer support. As to how much money is involved in that, I'm not too sure. But yes, there's supported teams. I think that, I would like to know the difference between what classifies like a factory team, though.
Yes. Yep. No, fair point.
My question is, what does Mark Scave think about this?
The best part of that, he's at the pub because I can hear a bloke in the background ordering a mixed grill.
Yeah, that's fucking
So
brilliant.
whoever put that in, good on you. And I don't know what Scafey will be devastated because he's a GM boy. Scafey's holding through and through, GM through and through. So Scafey, I'd imagine, would have the shits.
Yeah, he'd be upset about that. And he's also a T8 boy, though, so he's going to be having real mixed emotions about today.
God,
he's not going to know what to do.
Hi, boys. Interested as to your thoughts as to whether the Craig Lowndes T8 wildcard will continue beyond 2025. Selfishly, would love nothing more for Lowndesy to come back and race the Blue Oval, but I appreciate there are the circumstances at play here. Cheers, boys.
I don't see him ever going back to a Blue Oval because I think now he's been at T8 so long, you'd want to finish your career there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so, he will potentially, I don't know what his contract deal is, but if he gets extended into the 26 season, you'd imagine he'll still be doing the wild card in a Ford, is what I would imagine.
Yeah. I would say,
I mean, Jamie sort of touched on in his interview today that he was about to call him. He hadn't called Lowndesy yet, but he said, I'm sure he'll be very excited. So to me, that kind of says T8 are hoping he sticks around and he enjoys the process of driving a Ford, is what I sort of took it as.
Yeah, it will be interesting because you get someone like that as well who's priceless really when it comes to development and when you're working with a manufacturer like this in the way that they seem to be in the future, like what it looks like, then I think someone like Lowndesy could be a really good asset. Whether the wildcard program changes or not, I don't know, but I did read Craig had said he still feels like he has a couple of years left that he can really contribute to that program, as a driver that is. But regardless, the guy would be a priceless mentor or development driver, test driver. There's so much that Craig could be utilised for.
Yeah, and someone just said, isn't Lowndesy a GM ambassador? I believe he is currently, but this isn't till 2026. So maybe his contract's up at the end of the year or whatever.
Oh, could you imagine? Someone has thrown in the chat in the live stream, Brenton369. Oh, my God, I got the gas again with my drinks. But the amount of merch Lowndes would sell to Ford fans is a no-brainer for T8 to continue the contract. Could you imagine actually the amount of Ford fans that would be just rapt that he's coming home?
Grand Tour Richards just said, I'm dying to see Scaife in a Ford shirt. I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah. I think he's actual bias, though, towards... I mean, he's a big fan of T8, I think, so, but that's always gone undercover. I've never seen him wear a T8 shirt since he drove for them, but since he retired. I think that Scavey's definitely going to have torn emotions over this.
I think a lot of people will, mate.
Definitely. But as a fan of the sport, though, I think it's a tough one because you're potentially losing GM, which... GM and Ford is, as we've only really known that as the biggest for supercars, or V8 supercars. That's the rivalry we've grown up with.
Yeah, no,
it's sad. There's a lot. Like my dad was a Ford fan, so I don't have the feeling, but I could imagine what someone like you is feeling, where GM, who you grew up watching, could potentially be leaving a sport you love. So that's probably what Scafey might be thinking.
We need to have a look at what Tickfit are putting up on socials because it keeps coming up that they're doing a ripping job of today. So have you seen anything?
I haven't seen anything that they've put up.
While you play next memo, I might just see if I can find it.
All right, next memo.
Mate, who actually gives a fuck? Really, come on.
Okay.
It's a fucking race car.
Did we vet that
All
one?
right, I didn't vet that one. I don't know what that one was. I think...
Apologies on that one, guys.
I think we care. I think that the sentiment is we all care. That's why there's over 400 people and two peanuts at a bar chatting over a beer about it. But very... very passionate.
Look, we get the fans' feelings and that's good. I can't find whatever people are talking about.
I'm actually, just so everyone knows, if you send us a voice memo, I'm all for being authentic and swearing, but just saying like, who cares? Obviously, I'm passionate about supercars and I care. So yeah, we want to give everyone a voice. But if you don't care, don't send a message.
Too many brekkie cones, a couple of people reckon.
Yeah, bong hit hard. All right, let's play another one.
Alrighty, punters, what is going on?
Hang on,
he's on site.
Someone's operating a power tool in the background here.
Alrighty, punters. What is going on in the world of support? I'm not sure what to make of this GM dropped Ford coming on. T8 becoming the main drive for Ford. What does that mean for Roger Penske and DJR? I'm just not sure what to make of that. Do DJR potentially take the reins and go Toyota 2026, 27? Who knows? But my main thought is, how good is Ford having a year coming back into F1, also doing Le Mans in 2027, I believe, bringing back the World Endurance Series. But what car are they going to bring? Are they going to bring back a GT40 or are they going to do a GT3 spec Mustang? Just interested to hear your thoughts on all this and see what it's like. Cheers, boys.
Thank you, mate. Just an update on that one. Penske did leave 2020 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With when Scotty Mack left as well. But it is it's still big news for DJR. And I think one thing you touched on there is how exciting it is, like, to see Ford. It's funny. One of my favourite movies is Ford versus Ferrari.
It's great.
And it's iconic to see in that how much it meant to Ford to beat Ferrari. Yeah. And it's still, like, globally they're investing so much in motorsport. And in 2026, they're also with Red Bull in Formula One, and they'll be an engine supplier to a few teams in pit lane. That's something that Christian Horner announced today. So Ford's going to be huge in motorsport. So we are very lucky. We've always had Ford, but I think this looks like they're going to be stepping up their involvement in supercars.
I'll answer that.
Let's play the reel. Give me your phone. I'll plug it in.
Yeah,
Someone's saying
I've found it, guys, and it's a pisser. So well done to them. The reason why I didn't actually think it was it, because I tried to have the volume off, and they're in their GT uniform, so I didn't know that was. But yes, it's they've done well.
You got a different phone to me.
Yeah, but just answering that memo too on what he thinks the hypercar will look like, whether it's a GT40 or a Mustang. I reckon they'll make something real cool, because you look at all the other hypercars that the other manufacturers have come out, and they're really out there.
Yep.
And I reckon Ford will do a cracking job of maybe bringing a bit of that GT40 heritage into something like that, but I reckon it'll look the business.
Yeah, possibly. I'm a little bit, just before we go on as well, a few people have mentioned about Scotty Mack and Shane pairing up for Bathurst, where Shane posted today a bit of a joke about not a joke actually. He was saying how good it was to work with Scotty again, or for the first time, sorry, and be on the same side of the fence. And throughout there, maybe they could do a wild card with 888 and DJR next year. We are mates with Shane. He's very much part of Apex Hunters, and I need to ask him though, because I'm a bit confused, because on the day they announced they're going to Ford and he's a GM driver, I'm not sure how that would ever work.
Few eagle-eyed fans have put that in here too, and it's. Yeah, like, are they going to... Because Red Bull are sponsoring them as well, Trackhouse. Are Trackhouse going to do a switch in NASCAR to Ford?
Fuck.
And a few people have mentioned this throughout the comments I've been noticing, and, I mean, wouldn't surprise...
Should we ring him right now, not tell him we're live, and ask the question?
Probably asleep. But, yeah, I mean, it's not a bad shout.
Yeah, well...
Because...
Yeah, but hang on. They're both Chevy drivers, though.
Yeah, so Scotty's Chev in IndyCar, but Penske's Ford in NASCAR. So is Scotty going NASCAR? Who knows? There's a lot of... We could put the tinfoil hats on and just...
True, because one of the Penske drivers in NASCAR is a factory driver, which is Austin Cindric. He just did the Daytona 24-hour with Ford. So, yeah, okay, he's close, but are we... the eagle-eyed fans in our live chat here, are you onto something? Is Trackhouse going to be going to Ford?
Is a Mustang coming to SADA? Great question.
Yeah. There's something in there. Jesse, who is a good mate of Shane's, good mate of mine, he also did SADA. And he said, to be fair, he should have won SADA before Shane cheated. But he did say Shane did race an EL Falcon in SADA. So
he knew for ages.
He knew for a long time. I reckon he was in on it, that they're going to Ford and he's going to be part of it at Trackhouse going to Ford. Who knows? Shane did race. If you haven't seen it, our SADA doco it's only 30 minutes long. It's on our YouTube. And Shane did race an EL Falcon as a shitbox in SADA.
A few were saying IndyCar has no Ford. I am aware of that, guys. I was just saying that he actually drives a Chev in IndyCar, and then Penske run Fords in.
Yeah, you know, Scotty Mack had the big Chev thing on his
Chev engines.
Very much a Chev driver. Yeah. All right, I'm going to play this Tickford video. So what we're playing here is Tickford Racing on Instagram have created a video that apparently is quite funny. We have to check out.
Hey, Di, what's going on, mate?
Hey,
what are you
Tommy.
up to? What are you doing?
Just loading from Sydney, mate.
That's not it. This one.
Yeah, guess what?
Yeah, what?
You're not going to believe this.
What, mate?
We've finally got Parity.
No, how?
888. They're going to Ford.
Yeah!
Woo!
Yeah!
Woo! Booyah! P1, baby! Yeah, guess what?
It's good. It's
That
very
is
good.
actually brilliant.
Actually, our fan's pretty funny. Someone said IndyCar on Fox, Barbs. Yeah, we addressed this in the last show. I stuffed up. Sorry, guys.
Yes, Elliot did. Unfortunately, in one of our podcasts, Elliot said that we got so excited with everything that Fox is doing with IndyCar at the moment.
It is on Fox, just in America. We can't watch it.
Yes, yeah. It's going to be in Fox on Fox in America. That is all. Someone also asked, why is Elliot always in the box seat as the main seat? It's because
I'm the best looking. It's as simple as that, guys.
I don't have the swag to stand behind the bar, so he serves me.
Scott's legs get tired, so I have to stand up all day.
Or I'm just like the main guy, so you serve me.
That's true.
But yes, Tickford actually do a good job with their socials. Shout out to those guys there. And that was their Instagram we played, so no stealing their content, but shout out where it's worthy. Let's finish off these fan memos.
Yep.
Well, Scotty, the cream always rises to the top. Teams always come back to the best brand out there, and that is Ford, baby. Let's go.
Cream pie, baby.
Oh, God. That'll also get cut up. God.
It is exciting. I think that, Ford, well, with T8 previously as well, so and we saw what they did with them. So I think it's, they've returned.
Yeah. Oh, as I said, I'm a Chev/Holden diehard, but yep.
I've got lower in my seat apparently during the broadcast.
Your spine.
Yeah. All right. Next fan memo.
Good for Red Bull Racing, GT3 program, Ford, the F1 team. Probably the final nail in the coffin for what was Holden. Sad, but we move on.
Yeah. Holden died a couple of years ago, but yeah, it'll be interesting.
But I see what he means.
Yeah, no, yeah, from a GM product, yeah, I think time will tell. No one knows.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not... Yeah, you grew up a GM fan, so you know the feeling of right now, the uncertainty of them being in the sport is, we feel the pain of any GM fan out there, and especially for myself as a GM driver right now. I want nothing more than to do my bit at Bathurst and Tailem Bend and try and get a result for all the fans out there and also the people that are still involved at GM.
Hi guys, it's Narelle from Penrith.
G'day, Narelle.
Just a quick question on all of this. Do you reckon it's good for the sport?
Firstly, Narelle, I hope you don't go for the Penrith Panthers. Yeah, I think it is good for the sport.
It's bittersweet though, isn't it? Only because of the GM thing.
Yeah, no.
I think it's good for the sport.
Yeah. Motorsport in Australia as a whole, yes. Supercars, yeah, it's bittersweet because Chev lose a powerhouse, as we've touched on, Chev fan. I think depends on which side of the camp you sit on. You'll either be wrapped or you'll have the shits.
Yep. Or be scafey and battling with both sides of confusion.
Yeah.
Next one.
Hey guys, Reese here. Love your work. Of course they're going to get Ford back to the top of the table. It's 888. Same chassis, different bodies. Nothing's going to change. Would be interesting to see what they do with the engine. What I'm really excited about, though, is Scotty, Barbs, both you guys, 888 drivers, GT3, GT4. They're going to be popping up in the next couple of years. Surely they're going to run a GT3 and GT4 programs in Australia. Customers, worldwide, get on it, boys. Used to, Bathurst 12 hour.
Fuck, how good would that be? We need an Apex Hunters. Subscribe, we're going global and we're going to just fund our own Apex Hunters car in a Ford.
I need to sign him up as my manager. That's what I need to do.
What we're doing here, if you are unsure, we play the fan memos. It is one of our favourite sections because it's where we get to hear from you directly, but we post this online, so follow our socials, and when we put it up, go on to fan memos when we put the link up and record your voice message. We love hearing from you guys.
Scotty, do you think...
G'day, Scott.
Sorry, mate.
G'day, Bob.
I was just going to... Scotty, do you think Toto will get special treatment to rush homologation process? Or you've kind of touched on a little bit of that stuff?
Yeah, it's not that they get special treatment. I think we've seen in the past, typically the first year of a new car has a slight advantage just because of the time it takes to develop the car. So, the Volvo at the end probably ended up with an engine that shouldn't have been allowed to race at the start of the season, but then they fixed it throughout. And it was really just because they're battling against the clock to get the car on the grid.
Yeah.
And I think that teams strategically, even Ryan Story alluded to it a little bit on our pod, that they, with the Ford, delayed some things.
So they couldn't stop them.
So then they can't stop them because at the end of the day, the clock's ticking, and when it gets to round one,
car has to be on
the car has to be on the grid. And Supercars at that point then is going to be on their knees just trying to get it done. You know what I mean? And so sometimes I feel like there are some things that probably shouldn't get through that do, but they're told they need to be rectified as soon as possible. So yes, I would have said that, but that's what I think is positive as well about T8 going into 2026, fully developing a package. I think it's going to be exciting to see now, like what they come out with. And I think that, yeah, it will be very good parity between Toyota and Ford in 26. And it'll be interesting to see then what happens with GM. But GM, if they stick around, will be the benchmark they have to match. I'll try and get the right one. I may get the wrong one here.
G'day, Scott. G'day, Barbs. Talon here. Lifelong Triple A fan. And I don't know how to take the news that they switched back to Ford for 2026. It's odd seeing them back in, in Ford where they started all those years ago. But seeing the, new Red Bull livery on a Ford, it's cursed. I will admit this, that is cursed. It's a show around and back. I want to know your thoughts as well.
I think it's hard. If you've been, if you, like he said there, he's been a lifelong Triple Eight supporter. You got to remember that at some point they drove Ford as well. They've driven for GM, and now they're going back to Ford. So I don't know. I can imagine, yes, if maybe, yeah, if you've got attached to GM being on the front of a Red Bull car, it would be tough to, the Chev badge on the front, it'd be tough. But at the end of the day, all I would say is inside every team, there's individual people that work really hard and build the cars themselves, and that's who you're supporting.
Yeah.
So I'd say, mate, the people that are at Triple Eight now are the same people that will be there in 2026. So hopefully you can continue to support them. And I say that to every team. You know, when Walkinshaw went from GM to Ford, at the end of the day, a lot of the people, especially someone like Robbie Starr, I think 1991 was his first year in Supercars, and he's been at Walkinshaw ever since. So when you support teams, you're supporting the people that work there, not just the badge on the front of their car. That's sort of my take on it, I think.
Yep. Someone did say, which I texted you early this morning when I got up, and I noticed too. So Sandman said, Apex Hunters, the Ford announcement broke last night at 9:40 p.m. QLD time on Facebook. Supercars Extra were who put it up. And I saw that when I got up early this morning. I texted you at like 6 a.m. going, oh, what's this?
It's been broken, yeah.
Yeah. And they're saying, Triple Eight would have been pissed. And I imagine they probably would have if that broke before they did their official. Like at that point, it was obviously just a rumour. But, one thing I've learned in motorsport is no one can keep a secret. And if there's rumours, generally it's true.
I think so. And sometimes, journalists will race each other I don't think being first is always best when it comes to breaking news.
Yeah.
But I also think that coordinating an announcement is actually really important. Some people might think that people should, when they get the news, just release it straight away. But it's also important. The reason we release things under embargo is so that we can coordinate that everyone releases it at the same time and you get maximum impact.
Yep.
So when those things get leaked, I'd say the only cool thing was it seemed to get the conversation going early, and then people just waited.
Yeah.
But things would have been
cheeky
released.
from them though.
It was, but I can't imagine I reckon they would have done that before the embargo. That would have been something they got prior, because once they've been sent
they would have got it backhanded, and then
yeah, for sure. Because no one's that unprofessional that you're going to get the information direct from the team and then release it prior to the embargo, which I think an embargo is actually illegal. Like you can be in trouble anyway. So
it might have just been someone that's like scheduled the post.
And could you imagine?
They've stuffed up the time accidentally, and then their boss like, "What's going on? Why have you released
Oh my god,
this?"
it was Fogues, but
well, he might not be that good. He might not be that good with technology.
Maybe he did schedule the post at the wrong time, but
it could have happened.
Yeah, and one thing, shout out to Speed Cafe. They have been someone that for us has really, I've had.
I was chatting to AVL before on Instagram because he's living the dream over there at the moment. He's eating American barbecue. He's driving cool cars. I said, how do you get your gig, mate?
Yeah, he's done well, but those guys have impressed me this year from a point of view with Apex Hunters where we are a little bit controversial and sometimes because we say things that are just there's no topic that's untouchable. You know, like we will talk about whatever needs being
transparency.
Exactly, we're transparent, and you know, there's a few like other journalists that have tried to slam us, which clearly have their hand in the pie of Supercars, and they're afraid that if they speak out against them, that their payroll stops. You know, their pay packet from some Supercars will stop. But Super Cheap. I'm looking at the logo on the front bar. Sorry, Speed Cafe has actually been really good, I think, at reporting things as transparent as possible. Like they've actually even spoken about us, which
they'll usually mention.
There is literally no one that's associated with Supercars except for Speed Cafe that will write a story about Apex Hunters because Supercars don't like us. They would rather we didn't exist.
No, they don't like you, mate. Don't drag me.
Yeah,
into
that's
this
true.
shit,
I have to say us, so I don't feel shit.
Hell.
They actually told me Elliot's name is Mud. It was never me. But yeah, I think that so shout out those guys. Someone I say that because someone in the comments had said Speed Cafe seem to usually play with a straight bat, and it's trying to give the fans what they want, which is what we're trying to do.
And the good thing for us, we've said it we're not journalists. We're just pub talk. This was born from us sitting in the pub talking about the sport that we love.
Well, it's why we don't break news. We hear a lot of things before they come out. But it was actually the Ryan Story pod was really funny because he told us on that pod, it was breaking news before we went out with it, that he had signed the co-drivers and who they were. And to be honest, we don't care. Like,
well, we didn't edit it in time.
No, I edited that night, clipped. But I didn't bother putting it out. I chose something funny instead to post because I'd much rather show the personalities than be trying to break news because there's too many good people doing that already. And
I can't spell for shit anyway, so I'm not doing press releases.
Yeah, and usually by the time I finish the podcast, we're not editing anything immediately because I'm too drunk. Someone in there, Harry Dodds, has predicted that Erebus is going to be the homologation team.
Look, Harry, it wouldn't surprise me.
Why don't we invite someone from Supercars on? We have. I've actually reached out to Massey. And it seemed good at first, and then I imagine he's checked with someone and then he didn't reply to me. So, Massey, we'd love to have you on the podcast. If you would come on, please reply to me. And then, Supercars, I've asked them as well, and they said they'd send it up the tree. And, of course, I do the emails and things. I don't hear back. No one comes back to me. And so, yes, I'd love to have someone from Supercars on.
Any more memos, mate?
We do. One more.
Hey, lads.
We've got another one on a construction site here. I feel like
that was the same one, wasn't it?
No, this is a different one.
Hey, lads. I'm at Winton testing a Formula Ford for the first time, but that's besides the point.
Little plug?
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, there's the two main drivers on the windscreen there. Does that mean we're getting both mainies for the Enduros again? Love to see that. Radio. Cheerio, ta-ta, bye-bye.
Oh, could you imagine a Scott Pye Jamie Whincup Enduro car?
Fuck, it'd be fast.
Forget Brock Feeney, Will Brown. Sound check.
I think just to answer the question, I think that was just because they wanted both drivers' names in the press release and the photo that they released, right?
They would have done, which was interesting that Lowndes' name was left off the Super Cheap car. But I know that he's not contracted.
He's a GM. And
oh, true.
Maybe
yeah. And I don't think he's announced or I don't think he's contracted for next year, is he?
You're asking the wrong
So they're not going to put, yeah. Forget what I said. He's a GM. Yeah, that makes total sense, Elliot. I didn't think about that. He's a GM driver, and I don't know what happens with the wildcard next year. Thomas Bramley, Peter Adderton to run next year. I actually saw that he put up GM Call Me. At the end of the day, like I love Pete, but I think there has been teams for sale in the past, and the price is kind of set. So if you want to buy in, I'm sure there's one that is for sale. I personally would love to see Pete come in and do something. And yeah, if he came in and was aggressive enough and bought a big enough team that could take on the homologation, that would be pretty wild.
Yeah, and I've seen it a couple of times in the comments too. Matt Anton just said Premier as the homologation team, looking to grow and plenty of coin available. So, you know, they've probably definitely got the resources financially to be able to take that on. It's not a bad option.
They do. We did have another voice memo. If you're in the chat right now and you would like to send a voice memo, go to our socials and check the story. You can send a voice memo in. Here's another one from Spencer.
Before you start that though, mate, if Pete Adderton did ever get a team or a car in Supercars, I think he'd be very much like a Justin Marks and like, he'd really promote it well because you see their events, everything they do, they pump it up hard and he gets massive engagement. So
he's doing it the right way though. Like if you want to really shake things up and come in and disrupt it, then you got to be someone like Pete that's prepared to cop the backlash as well. Because that's one thing that I love about Pete is he's prepared to say what most people wouldn't because they're afraid of what comes with it. And he doesn't mind getting it back. Like he puts it out there. And it was like me at Bathurst. Like we all live in glass houses and you don't speak out if you're not afraid for yours to be broken. When I crashed at Bathurst, I had just asked for the TV vision and everything. And of course, that's one of the negatives that comes with raising your head. But we need more people that will do that.
Yeah, I think he would be, if it ever did happen, I think he would be an awesome addition because he would, in some of the other areas, make the sport lift and promote it well.
Someone said that Lads Adderton is a PR nightmare for GM. I actually don't agree. I think that...
well, he could be. But
but I think things are changing a lot now. And we see with Formula One, you need personalities. I think that, I guess if you're on the board trying to keep someone like Pete under control, you can't. But you also should embrace... I think some people should embrace different, like Adderton, I don't think gets embraced by Supercars at all. They obviously, took the Boost money and worked with the team at Boost there to put on some amazing events. But I think that Adderton actually had some good ideas for the championship and how we could have he talks to a young demographic with what was Boost Mobile before he sold that. Yeah. It's still going, but he's obviously sold it. But he talks to a young demographic, so he knows what the people want.
And the thing is too, which Matthew Turton's just pointed out in the comments there, from an entertainment point of view, he'd be brilliant. And that's where I think we've said it in the past, that's where the sport is maybe forget sometimes it's entertainment. Yes, it's sport, but number one, it should be entertainment. That's what brings people to the fence. That's what makes people buy merch and subscribe and do all that sort of stuff. So
definitely.
Yeah, I think from an entertainment point of view, there's probably no one better that's into Supercars at the moment. You do a great job.
Yeah, I think brands as well are starting to be a little bit more open-minded. I would love to see teams in pit lane do it. I know there's one driver in particular I spoke to that would love to come on the podcast, but the team has said no. And I'm not going to bother shaming who it is or anything like that, but it's disappointing because they're afraid of, I guess, the perception of our pod and how nothing's really off the table.
Mm.
But I think that's what we should all embrace. I think, no one's dumb enough to bring the sport into disrepute.
No.
We are just trying to talk about something we're passionate about. I think to hear a team say, no, you're not allowed to go on that podcast is disappointing because at the end of the day, we're just trying to bring eyeballs to the sport. A
couple of people have said too in here, which I just worth mentioning, that they need Gary Rogers Motorsport back. I mean, Gary from an entertainment point of view was always entertaining. But the problem is they've sold or handed back their licenses. So to go through that whole process again would just be a nightmare, I'd imagine.
Definitely. Wins Racing has thrown into the chat online as well that you guys are really overlooking that Peter has no business to promote in Australia. You're also forgetting there, mate, that Pete is a massive supercar fan, loves the sport, and has also just sold his company for a lot of money. I think internationally, like in the US, we're going to see drivers appear in a NASCAR, I think, with Mobile X on the side of it because he just loves the sport. He loves the drivers that are in the sport, and if he can help them internationally, he will. But Pete has the money now to buy a team.
Do you know what
he can also then, though, go and put any sponsors on it he likes. So we're not overlooking the fact that, I know he hasn't. Boost Mobile has sponsored me in the past. We've done work for them up until the end of last year. We did the Boost Mobile documentary for them as well. So I'm very close with Boost Mobile. But I think that Adderton now has the cash flow there. And
he could probably buy the series. But
he loves it.
Yeah, and he's a businessman, so he'll probably have another business in the next 6 months in Australia or this part of the world anyway that he could promote. But he's the sort of guy that would do the Ricky Bobby thing and put his face on the car just to shit people.
Yeah,
he doesn't run a car run team. He'd have his face on the bonnet or something, or he'd do something out there. So I don't think he particularly needs a business to promote.
Exactly. But yes, I think that the sport is still in good shape. I think it's going to be interesting where it goes from now. But big news today. Very excited. I think it's good. It's sad for GM at the moment, but hopefully they find something in 26 that allows them to stay in the championship competitive for all the fans like yourself, Barbs.
Thank you.
There's just a lot of them, and I know that when I was reading through comments, and I think some people are quite torn between being stoked about it and also disappointed because they might be a GM supporter. Yes.
Awesome. No more memos. That's it.
We did have another one come through from Rob Stevens.
Hey, fellas. No comments on the Ford news. Just wanted to say love your work. Love the podcast. Keep it up from down here in Timaru, New Zealand.
Beautiful.
One, it's a great note to, I think, end the podcast on. But Timaru, I love that place. I raced there actually in the Toyota Racing Series. So, yes, thank you, mate, for sending that in. Love the place.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. That's probably going to wrap up the pod, but we'll hang around for a few minutes if there are any questions.
We'll keep the live stream going, but we appreciate it. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section as well on everything we've talked about tonight. Appreciate everyone that's been on the live stream. If you would like to be a part of the live streams in the future, remember to subscribe to our channel, support the partners that keeps it alive as well. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate tonight's pod.